Seven-seaters, historically they haven't been the coolest of cars, but models such as the Peugeot 5008 and the Skoda Kodiaq have shown that you can have space for seven whilst having a bit of style to go with it. However, there's now a new kid on the block. It's called the SEAT Tarraco, the latest and largest SUV to come from the Spanish brand. Now I want to start, if I may, with the styling. SEAT states that the new Tarraco signifies the Spanish brand's new direction when it comes to design language. And for me that is a little bit of a worry. Now, this car is far from ugly, nor is it so offensive to my eyes that I want to gouge them out. However, in my opinion, it's not quite as good looking as the rest of the current SEAT range, but that's merely my opinion. I think for me, my biggest gripe is the front grille. I don't know, there's something about it I don't quite like. I don't think it looks very SEAT to me, but you may think I'm talking rubbish. Now, one thing I do like is, as standard on all of the models, you get metallic paintwork. So this particular car is finished in Atlantic blue, which looks really nice, especially when the sun hits it. It's got a really nice glisten to it. Now, the model you see here is the Excellence, meaning as standard, I get 19-inch alloys, chrome detailing to the outside and tinted windows. So overall, the Tarraco is a good looking car, don't get me wrong, and I definitely think it's better looking than the Skoda Kodiaq, but not quite as good looking as some of its stablemates. Anyway, let's move on to the inside, shall we? Now the interior, well, in my opinion, it is a little bit boring. Now, don't get me wrong, it's finished nicely enough, but compared to a Peugeot 5008, it's not quite as inviting or enticing. But what I will say, the inside of this car is definitely more ergonomic and more functional than a 5008. So I think this car will be easier to live with day to day. That's merely my opinion. But yes, you've got soft touch materials and you've got these quite swanky seats with leather and Alcantara. I don't quite know why the Alcantara is brown. Some of you may not like that, but I don't know, I strangely like it. I'm not too sure why, but brown does seem to be an interesting choice of colour for certain. You've got a plastic trim here, which looks nice enough, but it creaks a little bit when you bend it, although let's face it, you're not going to drive around bending the plastic on the dashboard, are you? But I thought it was worth pointing out. Doesn't seem to be built overly well, but the rest of the interior, it is built well. It feels quite solid, it feels quite robust and durable, and I think it will stand up for family life. If you would like to know more about the interior space and practicality, be sure to check out the video in the right hand corner of your screen, but this video is focusing more on the driving. So with that in mind, how does the Tarraco perform? If you go for this engine, the 2-litre turbocharged petrol, you'll find the Tarraco is quite a pokey thing. It's quite punchy, even though this particular car weighs over 1,800 kilograms. Pretty good. So in regard to power, I have 190 horsepower with 320 newton meters of torque. This engine can only be mated to the 7-speed DSG and the 4-drive 4-wheel drive system. So if you want a manual car, or if you want to have 2-wheel drive, I'm afraid you won't have it with this engine. But this engine, it does make good progress. You'll hit 62 miles per hour in 8 seconds, very respectable, and the top speed is 131 miles per hour. Now, of course, this is a family car, so I imagine a lot of you aren't really too fussed about performance. So with that in mind, let me talk you through the other engines you can have. So you have 4 in total, 2 petrol or 2 diesel. Obviously you have this petrol engine, but you also have a 1.5 litre petrol which offers 150 horsepower. That engine is turbocharged as well. In fact, all of the engines are turbocharged for better efficiency and better performance. Representing the diesel contingent, you have a 2-litre diesel which can either be had in 150 horsepower or 190 horsepower. This engine though can only be mated to the 7-speed DSG and 4-wheel drive. If you go for the 1.5 litre petrol, that can be mated, well, that can only be mated, I should say, to front-wheel drive and a 6-speed manual gearbox. If you go for the 150 horsepower diesel, that can be mated to either front wheel drive and a 6-speed manual, or 4-wheel drive and the 7-speed DSG. And if you go for the more powerful diesel engine, that is 4-wheel drive only with the 7-speed DSG, much like this 2-litre diesel. Sorry, this 2-litre petrol there. As I mentioned, I've got the 7-speed DSG and it works well, but come on, what else would you expect? It's seamless, it's slick, and it suits the character of this car quite well. I normally prefer a manual, but I think if I were to buy a Tarraco, I would opt for the DSG. I just think it suits the character of the car better, and for a family car, you want something with convenience, and that's what the DSG gearbox gives you, convenience. As well as the 7-speed DSG gearbox, I have a different bunch of driving modes. So I have Eco, Normal, Sport, Individual, Off-road and Snow. I almost forgot about one or two then. So I've got a very healthy selection from which to choose from. At this moment in time, I've got it in Sport. This engine really does make good progress. Yes, this car is more peppy than I was expecting, especially when you have it in Sport mode. Yes, Sport mode, it gives you more performance, it gives you more responsiveness, and it also makes the steering heavier as well, which I do like. So although this may be a 7-seater, you don't have to drive it thinking that you've given up on life and that everything's all gone to beige, because this is still an engaging, relatively dynamic car to drive. And when you're going through the corners, it doesn't feel quite as heavy as it is, in my opinion. Now, I'm not going to say it feels nimble, that would be balmy, but this car doesn't feel like it's not too far off 2 tons. Now, I imagine for a lot of buyers, this engine won't make sense because it isn't particularly frugal, but I will speak about fuel economy a little bit later. So going back to the driving modes, in case you're wondering, this car does not have adaptive dampers. For whatever reason, the UK market doesn't get it, but you do get it in other markets, so that is a little bit disappointing, especially when you consider how poor some of our roads are in Blighty, but never mind. Let's talk about the ride. The ride is pretty good. It's not quite as good as what the Peugeot 5008 can offer you, or indeed the Honda CR-V, but it's by no means bad. However, what I will say, because I've got the 19-inch alloys, it does give the car a bit of a firm edge. Now, I think if you want a Tarraco with a more supple ride, I would recommend having a look at either the SE or the SE technology, because they have respective alloy sizes of 17 and 18 inches. But the ride in this car, yes, there is a firm edge to it, but the seats are very comfortable, the damping is good, and for the most part, this is a comfortable car. It isn't really until you hit a pothole or an imperfection in the road that the cabin does get disturbed a little bit, and you will hear the suspension working away. However, the handling. This car does handle pretty well, considering you do get a bit of body roll, but you have to expect it. It's a big 7-seater. What I will say, the body roll is a fair bit better than I was expecting. It's quite controlled. It's pretty surprising. The steering's got a nice weight to it, and as standard, this car comes with progressive steering. So it basically means that less effort and lock is required for low speed maneuvers, such as parking, but when you're going at faster speeds, you have better control. It did take me a little bit of time to get used to, but not long, and I like it. It works well. For what it's worth, if you wanted to have this in a Kodiaq, this would be an optional extra. Well, it would be if you go for the Kodiaq SEL, which is the equivalent to this trim level. Let's touch upon refinement. Refinement is pretty good on the whole. As I've mentioned, I do have 19-inch alloys, so as you would expect, there is a bit of tyre noise. However, it's not quite as prominent as I was expecting. It's pretty well controlled, as is the wind noise. So if I shut up for a few moments, it's quite a nice, quiet place in which to be in. And even at speed, again, it's still pretty hushed in here. The engine is refined as well. Even when you work it hard, it's not shouty or boomy. And when you get to cruising speeds, it melts away into the background effortlessly. Yes, it is a nice, pleasant engine in which to work with. At this point you may be thinking, oh, I really fancy one of those Tarracos, but how much will it cost me? Well, let me go through the prices. There are 4 trim levels available. You have SE, SE Technology, Excellence and Excellence Luxe, with starting prices ranging from £28,550 all the way through to £32,400. The car you see here is the Excellence, which starts from £30,640. However, this car has got the 2-litre petrol engine, the 4-wheel drive system and the 7-speed DSG. Therefore, the car you see here starts from £30,060. Standard features include 19-inch alloys, chrome window surrounds, tinted windows, rear LED lights, LED headlights, LED daytime running lights. You also get an 8-inch touchscreen, navigation, smartphone connectivity, Bluetooth, DAB radio, adaptive cruise control, metallic paint, front sport seats trimmed with Alcantara, keyless entry, park assist, front and rear parking sensors, reversing camera, digital cockpit, drive select, 3-zone climate control and a good host of safety features. So once again, time for Ask Erin, the segment where you guys ask me questions in regard to whichever car I'm testing. So let's get cracking. Will there be a Cupra branded version of this like the Cupra Ateca? Well, there are many rumours flying about on the internet, but at this moment in time, there's nothing concrete to say whether there will be a Cupra Tarraco. Now, I would argue who really wants or needs one, but of course you do have the Skoda Kodiaq VRS, which is essentially the same thing. So maybe there is a place on it for the market, but at this moment in time, it hasn't been confirmed. Right, to next question. Does the boot have a safety feature if you're still standing there while the tailgate is closing? Good question. Let's find out. Right, here goes nothing. I've written a will in case it all goes wrong. If it does go wrong, tell my wife I love her. Scary noises. Ah. Yes, look at that, it works. I didn't get decapitated by a SEAT Tarraco. Life is good. Mwah. Yes, get in. What makes it better or different than the Skoda/VW equivalent? Well, obviously the VW version will cost you more money. If you're wondering, the VW version is the Tiguan All-Space, but yes, that will cost you more money. Now, interestingly, I would have thought it would have had a bigger boot because the Kodiaq does have a bigger boot than this, but the Tiguan has exactly the same boot space as the Tarraco. So I do find it interesting how the Kodiaq has got the bigger boot out of the 3 of them, although it is relatively marginal. So the Volkswagen will cost you more money. The Skoda is a cheaper car to buy, however, you don't get quite as much as standard. So let's put it this way, I've got the Excellence trim level. If you wanted to get a Kodiaq to a similar spec, you would have to get the SEL and add options, which would take it up to almost £38,000. So that's almost 3 grand more. Now it's worth noting that that Kodiaq would get a bigger touchscreen and heated seats, whereas I have non-heated seats and I've got an 8-inch touchscreen and not a 9.2-inch touchscreen. But for me, the Tarraco represents better value and I think it is a better looking car. So I would have this out of the Kodiaq and the Tiguan. What do you think of the new SEAT infotainment system? I think it's very good. It's presented very nicely. It works very well. And I would definitely say it's one of the best infotainment systems on the car market right now. So yes, it gets a big thumbs up from me. And the last question, can you demonstrate the adaptive cruise control? Yes, I can. So the adaptive cruise control, it is very easy to operate. I've got a little lever down here. So at this moment in time, it is set to off. So to turn it on, I can just literally pull it toward me like so. And you've got a button here marked set. This is obviously where you set your speed. So I'm going to speed up a little bit and set my speed to, there we go, that's 36 miles per hour. I can increase the speed by hitting the dial up, like so, and I can decrease it by hitting it down, like so. And let's hit it back up to 40 miles per hour. Now, the great thing about adaptive cruise control is, of course, well, it's adaptive. Therefore, it will maintain a gap between me and the car in front of me. So as you can see, I've got a Volkswagen up ahead of me, and it's just slowed down a little bit. Therefore, I've just slowed down a little bit. Now, you can increase or decrease the gap by using this little toggle here, just on the top of the lever. You can cancel the cruise control by pressing away from you, like so, and I can take control myself, or you can resume it by tapping it towards you. And if you want to turn it off altogether, you just do that and it's off. There. The adaptive cruise control works very well. Let's touch upon fuel economy. Now, as you can imagine, with this engine, it isn't the most frugal. On a combined run, SEAT states that this engine is good for 31 mpg, and in my experience, I was getting around 38. However, my commutes were on faster roads such as this. Therefore, obviously it's not the most accurate reflection because I haven't been doing as much town driving. In regard to emissions, this engine emits 206 grams per kilometre of CO2, so yes, it isn't particularly green. For those of you seeking more fuel economy, I would urge you to take a look at either the 1.5 litre petrol or the 150 horsepower 2 litre diesel, as they both offer 47.9 mpg, which still isn't amazing, but it's not too bad. It's definitely better than 31, that's for certain. In case you're wondering about the 190 horsepower 2 litre diesel, on a combined run, that offers 39.8 mpg. The 1.5 litre petrol engine, if you're wondering about emissions, that emits 173 grams per kilometre, meaning for the first year of VED, you'll be required to pay £855. For this, the 2 litre petrol, you will be required to pay £1,280 for the first year of VED. In regard to emissions for the diesel, if you go for the less powerful unit, you're looking at 156 grams per kilometre, and if you go for the more powerful unit, you're looking at 186 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning you'll pay respective VED prices for the first year of £530 and £855. In case you're wondering about the BIK rating, for this car it's 37%, so obviously this won't be the most cost-effective company car. Like fuel economy, safety is bound to be an important factor when choosing a family car such as this. Standard features include 7 airbags, autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, hill hold assist, driver tiredness warning, and emergency call. Thanks to this kit, Euro NCAP awarded the new Tarraco 5 stars, which is bound to give potential buyers strong peace of mind. So, time to wrap up. Why should you buy the brand new SEAT Tarraco? Well, it's good looking, it has a good choice of engines, it has a good amount of kit and safety equipment, it's practical, it's spacious, and it's pretty engaging to drive as well. Why shouldn't you buy the SEAT Tarraco? Well, this particular engine isn't the most frugal, but of course you can choose another one. This car is comfortable, but it's not quite as comfortable as the Honda CR-V or the Peugeot 5008. And if I'm going to be picky, the inside is a bit boring, but I'm only saying that because I can't think of what else I don't like about this car. I think as an overall package, the SEAT Tarraco is very appealing. So if you are on the market for a 7-seater SUV, I think the Tarraco definitely deserves your attention. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, be sure to like, subscribe and to ring my bell so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.